I'd like to welcome Andrew Downing. Andrew is a litigation partner with Brueckner, Spitler, and Shelts. He represents victims of vaccination harm in the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program for decades, and his cases include some of the seminal cases that have shaped vaccine litigation over the years. Drew frequently speaks on the vaccine program around the country and is currently involved in shaping very much needed changes to the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. Thank you, Drew.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Drew Downing, and I am a lawyer. Lawyers Anonymous. But I'm really a nice guy. Don't hold that against me. In the mid-90s, my legal assistant at the time had an adverse reaction to the hepatitis B vaccine and wanted me to represent her. And I said, no, I don't typically sue doctors and hospitals, so I'm not going to do that. But if you want to come in and visit about it, I'll look at your case, and if it's good, maybe I can refer you to someone. So in the couple of days before she came in, I started looking at this and discovered there was something called the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program that most people and a lot of doctors don't know even exists. This audience is probably more attuned to the VICP than most, but in the 80s it was recognized that not only did industry request and get liability shields in terms of litigation over adverse responses to their products, but the goal was to generate a vehicle so that injured victims would have easy, compassionate, fast compensation that would cover pain and suffering and cover out-of-pocket medical bills and cover loss of earnings and cover their attorney's fees in the program. So the VICP was created. It came online in the late 80s. So I learned about this with my like I said, my legal assistant. The government fought us on the case. It was very clear-cut, but they fought. And so we had to try it. So I came to DC, we litigated it, we had experts. It was enormously expensive, and we won. So about 3 months later, I got a call from the chief judge of the Court of Federal Claims saying, I talked to the judge you tried that case in front of. She said you did a good job. Would you like to be on the referral panel? And I said, whatever, because nothing ever comes of referral panels for stuff like that. So I sent him some information, and about 3 months after that, I got a call from a guy in Ohio. Now, I'm from Arizona. I get a call from a guy in Ohio who wants me to represent him in the vaccine program. And I said, don't you want somebody local that you can talk to? And he said, well, I got your name off the referral panel. I said, okay, whatever. And he goes, have you seen the referral panel? And I said, no. And he goes, you're the only lawyer west of the Mississippi. And so that is where it started and sprang into a massive practice. I've had my own firm for years, which should signal to anyone that these adverse events do happen. They're rare, but they do happen. Vaccination can cause any number of neurological adverse events, including regressive encephalopathy, which for years was compensated in the vaccine program. Mary Holland with CHD wrote one of the original papers on this and identified, at least at that point, and I think this was 15 years ago, 80-some cases of regressive encephalopathy that were compensated in the vaccine program before the Autism omnibus proceeding started. So recognizing this as an issue is one of the things that I can assure you Secretary Kennedy is looking at. in January, the secretary called me and asked me if I would come in and be a director within HHS. And I said no, because I had my own law firm, I had employees, I had stuff going at the time. And he was upset. I've known Bobby for a little while. So he called back, and we talked a little bit about it in greater detail. And when I got home that night, I talked to my wife, and she looked me right in the eye and she goes, "If you don't do this, you will never be able to bitch about the system ever again." And so I sold my practice, transferred all my files away, and am now serving as one of Bobby's senior policy advisors on a lot of vaccine stuff, not the least of which is reforming the vaccine program. No one would say that that program isn't broken and hasn't been broken for a long time. It's a combination of factors, I think, that have led us to where we are. When the Autism Omnibus proceeding started, I was hesitant to refer any clients in. I mean, I was on some of the committees that were deciding what to do, but my fear at the time was it's going to end up being public policy and money. It's not going to have anything to do with the medicine. It's not going to have anything to do with whether these kids were actually injured by vaccination. It's going to be money. And you had 6,000 families that had legitimate injuries, and they all went in at the same time. The court created a process by which they could lump them all together and deny the claims. And that's exactly what happened. So since that time, autism is the A word that you're not allowed to utter within the vaccine program realm because you will be vilified, and as you guys know. But autism is simply a collection of symptoms. It's a collection of symptoms that place someone on a spectrum of neurological disease. It can be due to a mitochondrial issue, which Dr. Fry is probably going to talk about. It can be due to any number of things. It can be due to vaccine-induced inflammation. So originally, under the vaccine table, which sort of governs how this program operates, encephalopathy was a very broad term. In the 90s, the government sort of seized control of this issue and changed the definition, making it almost impossible for a family to prevail. Part of what Secretary Kennedy is doing right now, and with my help, and we have a team looking at it, is we have to figure out a way to capture these kids. If you only use the A word, whatever, that's fine. How do we capture them? Do we broaden the definition of encephalopathic events? Do we broaden neurological injuries? How do we do that? I was hoping that the changes to the program might have been rolled out before today so that I could talk more in depth about them. I can't. As you can imagine, it's not my place to do the rollout. However, the one thing that I want you guys to know and be assured of, and I've seen it now for the last 6 months with the secretary and the people that he has working with him at NIH, FDA, CDC, he has your back on this issue. I'm telling you right now, he works from 5 in the morning until midnight. I don't even know how he does it. I want you guys to take away from this that you have a representative at Health and Human Services now that has your back. Right. And Gabrielle, the only other thing I want to say is, having represented vaccine victims for 30 years, sometimes homeopathic medicine is the only thing that works. I've seen it for certain, and so I applaud you doing that. Thanks, you guys.